Welcome to our Here to Be Heard podcast. This series is part of the larger Here to Be Heard global study at Mars to amplify and listen to the voices of women from all backgrounds and intersections of society. In the world we want tomorrow, society is inclusive. Progress has been made, but there's still work to do. In this series, you'll hear the unique experiences of women of Mars who come from all parts of the business to get their perspective on what needs to change for women to reach their full potential. My name is Tiffany King, and I'll be your host for this episode. I'm the Director of Inclusion and Diversity for Banfield Pet Hospital, and I've been with the company for 3 years now. I have an incredible panel of guests today. Dr. Molly McAllister, Chief Medical Officer of Banfield Pet Hospital, Dr. Marie Curl, Chief Medical Officer of VCA, and Dr. Aaliyah Harrison, Vice President of Veterinary Quality at Banfield Pet Hospital. Can you all start by telling us how long you've been with Mars and a little bit about yourself? So, Dr. Molly McAllister, let's start with you.
I have been a veterinarian now for 17 years. And after time in private practice, I joined Mars actually through Royal Canin. And I am rapidly approaching my 12-year anniversary in April. I spent several years with Royal Canin before coming to Banfield. And I've been with Banfield a little over 8 years now in a variety of roles, and just really appreciated the breadth that my career has been able to take since coming to Mars.
Fabulous. 12 years. That's amazing. So, Marie, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Tiffany. I have been a veterinarian for more than 30 years now and have had lots of different experiences on my career, starting in general practice and then going on to internship residency training to become a specialist. And I'm specialized in internal medicine and emergency critical care. I was on the faculty of University of Missouri for 18 years. And following that, in 2017, I joined VCA as a regional medical director, and VCA became a part of Mars during the same year, during 2017, and was regional medical director until last fall, where I became chief medical officer. And I've had an amazing time so far with Mars and with VCA, and I am just so excited about the future.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Marie. Aaliyah, we'll turn it over to you.
Yes, so I've been with Banfield and Mars. I'm going on 15 years. This is my 15th year. I started off as an associate doctor in our Cleveland market, and that path has led me to play many different roles within the practice. So I have been a chief of staff, as well as there was a position titled partner doctor. And from there, I became a medical director and then director of veterinary quality, which has led me to now the vice president of veterinary quality.
Excellent. You all have such impressive backgrounds. So, Molly, let's dive in. Veterinary health is a predominantly female workforce. In fact, according to the Association of American Veterinary Medical Colleges, more than 80% of veterinary school students are women, and 90% of vet techs are women. What are some of the ways this is a big win for women in STEM?
Well, yeah, it's such a great call out, Tiffany. And, at Banfield, we are so representative, 84% female among our associates as well. So that is such a true statistic. And I think this is a really great example of how women have really turned the tide in many aspects of STEM. There's, happily no question about our capabilities or our suitability for the STEM fields. And I've really appreciated how this shift has changed how we engage with younger girls around STEM, how we really treat this as less of an exception and more of a mainstream choice for them. So for me, it's a fabulous new frontier, and it's exciting to see where we'll go in the years to come.
Yeah, that's amazing. When you think about the percentage of women that are in the profession, Do you think there are any challenges to this?
Yeah. So, from the standpoint of, I guess, first, I'd love to just kind of think about the history. So, about 20 years ago or so, the profession was much more skewed towards a 50-50 or a male dominated profession. And certainly, if you look back into the 70s and 80s, it was largely male dominated. And so I think one thing that is a challenge with the shift is thinking about where the inflow has come, which is obviously in the newer veterinarians graduating from school, and what that means in terms of who you find in critical leadership positions. And so to say that a bit more clearly, I think one of the challenges is that while the profession is largely female at this point in time, the majority of leadership positions, Marie and I are exceptions from a chief medical officer standpoint. Most of these types of roles are filled by men just because of their longevity in the profession. So I think that's one challenge. I think the other is that we're a profession in flux. And so, as I said, we used to be primarily male. And when you look to really the growth of veterinary medicine in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, we were a very different environment. It was primarily men in the workforce who were supported by partners at home who were able to work a career where they worked all hours of the day and all days of the week. And that's not the case anymore. Now it's a career where people may or may not be partnered. They may or may not have children. And for many of us, you can no longer depend on a single income to support your family, to provide the stability you might want, and to really ensure that you can have that retirement is feasible. And so I think that is a big challenge where we need to transform this profession to better fit today's workforce. And I'm really proud of the way that Mars is leading the way with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Molly. So, Marie, have you and your fellow associates ever talked about why women might be drawn to the veterinary health profession more often?
I don't feel that we've actually spoken about it, but for the first part, being a veterinarian, I think most veterinarians have a universal experience of being drawn to becoming a veterinarian from a very young age, typically associated with some animal experience. If you think about the evolution of veterinary medicine over time, we went from primarily agriculture focused and from veterinarians practicing in rural areas to through the 1900s having an increase in primary pet medicine. And through the course of my career, pets have assumed a much greater role in our lives. They've moved from outdoors to indoors. They've become really just instrumental in all aspects of our lives. So I would say women being drawn to the profession, I would guess that there's greater exposure in aspects of veterinary care, coupled with changes that happened through the 1970s and 1980s of increase in changes with Title IX in education, and increase in availability of educational fields. I know when I started in vet school, my class was about 30% women, so that has obviously changed quite dramatically over time.
Thank you for touching on that. Aaliyah and Maria, can you speak to veterinary health's effort to recruit more minorities? And if there's ever an effort to recruit more men?
Well, I absolutely can tackle the first part of that question. And that's something that I'm very passionate about. Being a Black female veterinarian, I know that, yes, we have moved tremendous mountains in having women impact this workforce. Where we still have an opportunity is centered around diversifying the workforce. We know historically veterinary medicine has been a profession that has lacked diversity and diverse talent pipeline. And so it's extremely important that we do focus our efforts in the equity, inclusion, and diversity arena. We talked about the increase on demand, especially centered around COVID. And even prior to that, many more people have shifted into allowing their pets to be a part of their family. It has moved past the days of just agriculture medicine. So when you have that shift and you don't have the amount of veterinarians graduating to meet that demand, you have to look at other avenues and arenas to be able to tap into growing our veterinary pool. And it's a missed opportunity. It has been, and it's one that I personally um, am focused on changing. And some of the efforts that go there is really starting with our youth, retelling the story of veterinary medicine. Um, it's difficult. I was listening to this quote, if you see it, you can be it. And I don't know that that's necessarily the case for most of our inner city youth in our diverse culture. And so I think it's important as we all sit in positions of leadership that we help create that vision and what that can look like to represent the communities that look and seek care from us.
Absolutely. Well said. Marie, do you have anything to add to our ability to recruit more minorities and especially recruit more men?
Yeah, absolutely. Aaliyah made some really great points. Some of the work we're doing within VCA, within Mars, is outreach to underserved communities to provide veterinary care so that we can provide those good early experiences so that children have a way of children of all backgrounds and all ethnicities can see this as a viable career path. We know that we need to improve diversity in veterinary medicine. That's a well-known fact, and we have to start where we are and work together and move forward. And I'm proud to be a part of doing that with VCA and with VARS. Later this year, we're going to introduce our first ever diversity resource groups for our associates. And we're a longstanding partner with organizations like Pride VMC, the National Association of Black Veterinarians, and Latinx Veterinary Medical Association. As far as be recruiting, the question about recruiting more men is interesting because it is true, having with experience in academia and having been on academic selection committees, we want all talented people who want to become veterinarians to be able to do that. And that it's whether they're male or female, we want our profession to be strong, and we want our profession to look like the communities that we serve. So in addition to, making sure that we have appropriate gender balance, then why wouldn't that apply to having greater ethnicity balance of both men and women of different ethnic backgrounds?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing the work that's happening across VCA. That's fabulous. So, Molly, a question for you. As veterinary health continues to grow in importance for Mars, what successes in gender equality will you be able to share with the larger business?
So I am a huge fan of veterinarians and veterinary professionals and the transferable skills that they possess. When someone can navigate the complex environment of a veterinary hospital, manage the pets and clients that walk through the door, take care of complicated procedures, and at the end of the day, have a team that's engaged and satisfied with where they work. Those are skills that are valuable in any workplace. And so I think one of the things that we can do as Mars Veterinary Health is grow great talent with these transferable skills that can be shared across all of our businesses. I feel so fortunate in my personal career journey that I had the chance to work among two business units with Mars. And, who knows what the future holds, and maybe I'll get to do even more. But more importantly, I'd like to see other associates get to do that, because when we have such a unifying purpose of whether it's making a better world for pets within pet care or just making a better world today and tomorrow, we veterinary professionals are purpose driven individuals, and they want to drive that impact wherever they go. And so I am so excited to see the day when our associates start to diffuse amongst Mars and bring their energy and their talents. And then a few other points. I'm proud that, at Banfield, our leadership team is now at 50-50 in terms of a male-female split. And that is not among just veterinarians. So that's not attributed to the fact that there's so many female veterinarians. I'm the only veterinarian on our senior leadership team. So I think that when we've made a concerted effort, when we've dug in, we can make it happen. And then the last thing I'd mention is just that I think we are doing such great work across Mars and in Mars Veterinary Health. And Marie and Aaliyah spoke to the reasons why it's so important. But our work around inclusivity and diversity. And I think that relates racially, that relates to gender, it relates to many minority status in many forms. But I think we've done a really good job of understanding or starting to understand what we can do to help our associates be their authentic self at work. And I hope that we have an opportunity to share that with a larger business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Molly. Aaliyah, what barriers do women in general face when it comes to being themselves and achieving their best? What are the unconscious biases, in your opinion, do people still have?
Oh, I think so many still exist, unfortunately. And, some that come to mind, and one that has been taught to me over and over again is ensure you can speak to what it is that you want out of your career. And so I think that some of those unconscious biases are, um, I don't necessarily know if weakness is a word, but I do think that there are some that maybe feel women are inferior, cannot necessarily be drivers of certain business segments, and as well as we have been known to be caregivers in many situations. So, are we a little bit too empathetic? And that being an overused skill set of women. And I think in every situation, we have proven to be anything it is that we want to be. And so, I think it's important that we speak up. I still think that that is something that doesn't necessarily happen across the board, or maybe is not afforded in every opportunity. But truly say what it is that you want in your career and for yourself, and speak it into existence. So I'm a big component of truly being comfortable in self promoting. But that took some time. And it took a level of confidence that I believe I gained from sponsorship, people telling me time and time again. And so I think that's extremely important to pass on.
Yeah, I like what you said about speaking up and, having that confidence. And it does come with having mentors and role models and sponsors in your life. When we think about what women can do to kind of break down those barriers, I'm interested to hear, what do you think needs to change for women to reach that full potential? Marie, I'll start with you.
That's a wonderful question, and I don't know that I have a succinct answer. I think as we've kind of talked about, making sure that we have role models that for young women and girls to be able to aspire to recognize that whatever they want to do in their careers and with their lives, that they can do that, and also to have a supportive network to be able to lift them up, in addition to making sure that we have gender equality in both in within Mars and within all workplaces.
Awesome. Molly, I'll ask you the same question. So, what needs to change so more women can reach their full potential?
Yeah, I think that we have to unapologetically and with fierceness create and promote a culture of inclusivity. And I think that will benefit not only women, but people of color, people of a variety of minority statuses. I think we have to create a culture in Mars where every single associate can be their authentic self and be supported and applauded in doing so. And I think when we create that culture, then we can all shine. We can all bring our unique powers to play. We can all bring our skills and our passions and our energy and shine and really create that better world that we're striving for at Mars. But it starts with culture, and it starts with a culture of belonging.
Yes, absolutely. Could not agree more, especially around that culture of belonging. Hmm. Aaliyah.
Yeah, I would have to say, we have to start putting our women on pedestals. Yep, I'm just going to say it. And when I say that, it really is, we're no longer, as we looked at time progress, we no longer are just viewed as caregivers or educators, um, taking care of the home. We have careers. I sit and speak with you all today, and there's VPs and CMOs, and it just, I'm in awe as how much we have progressed. However, we still have some work to do, and I think a lot of that is going to be a societal impact. Has to change how we view women, and that takes time. But I can tell you what, and where it starts with me is ensuring that I continue to uplift women, and as I sit in a position where change can be made, not just in career, but also in personal life with friends and family, ensuring that I put women on a trajectory to where they can only go up, right? And not look back. And so that's definitely my personal commitment. Um, and then still just working on kind of rewriting the script.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you said about, how we've evolved, and kudos on putting women on a pedestal. I'd like to hear from Marie. How do you deal with imposter syndrome?
I had imposter syndrome for years and years before I actually heard a label for it. So I laugh a little bit about that. I heard a speaker speaking especially to the topic of female leadership named Carrie Lorenza a few years ago, and just an amazing speaker. But she pointed out something that I just laughed when she said it, because I think that it seems so true. And she was talking about the difference between men and women in going for a new opportunity or taking a new job. And she said that men will, if there's a new thing, job opportunity or something that they want to do, if they're 40 or 50% sure that they can do it, they'll go for it and figure out, well, I'll learn the rest of it on the job. And women generally have to be about 120% sure that they can do the same job. And I did find that actually quite funny, and I reflecting on my own life, I've found that to be true. And as I've progressed in my career, I have been much more willing to put myself out there for new opportunities. It is scary, and every and I've never regretted doing that. I've had amazing opportunities to through my career in veterinary medicine. And if you feel afraid to do something, if you feel like you're not quite ready, the answer is to do it anyway, and you will live and grow through that. And if it's not the right thing, you can do something else. But I think we're sometimes our own worst enemies of putting limits on ourselves.
Goodness, so true. Kudos to you for being courageous and taking those opportunities to advance your career. It really goes back to a lot of what Aaliyah was saying, right, about that confidence, and really making yourself visible. So I have a question for all of you. Aaliyah, let's start with you. What is your biggest wish or number one piece of advice for young girls or women today?
Ooh, that's a good one, Tiffany. I have to say, I got to follow some advice that was given to me from my mother. And I've come from generations of women leaders. I'm fortunate that that's all I know. I've watched my mother overcome many circumstances to be a VP and a single mother at that. And so, I would say to my two girls, and any other little girl that's out there, we have to plant those seeds while they're young. And what I would tell them is don't settle, know your worth. And that's something that was always said to me, know your worth. And my mom would always say, you're going to get out and compete in this world that's not always accepting of you. And so I had to know, when we talk about authenticity, who is Aaliyah at her core? What's my foundation? What's my ethics? What's my standards? And don't waver. Try and find a position and a practice that will support that so you can be your best self. And I'm just fortunate that I found that.
Oh, that's awesome. Know your worth. What an incredible mom and role model. Marie, how about you? What is your biggest wish or number one piece of advice for young girls or women today?
It's interesting listening to Aaliyah and coming from a background of female leaders, and that was very different from my background. I didn't have any women that were in that position yet. My mother was an incredibly strong influence, and in always taking the right path and being committed to working hard to honor and support our family and be a part of that. I would encourage girls and women to take every opportunity to have new experiences and using their own moral guide and compass to find out what's path is best for them to follow and following that and also to keep a sense of humor. I think I think every veterinarian has to know how important it is to be able to laugh with one another and laugh at yourself and just have fun.
Yeah, so true. So true. I always enjoy sense of humor in my day for certain. But I love what you said about, work ethic that you learned from your mom and partnerships and the importance of teamwork. Molly, we'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Gosh, I love what Aaliyah and Marie said. I wish we were all in a room together and, could be laughing together over this because these are such powerful pieces of advice. As they were talking, an image came to mind for me, and it was a graphic I saw last year during Women's History Month, and it's an image of women lifting each other up in perpetuity. And I would say, from that, my advice is don't ever stop looking around for the people who will support and lift you up. And don't ever stop looking around for the people who you can support and lift up. Because there's so much great change going on in our world, and there's so much yet to do. And that's how we're going to drive that change, is by supporting one another each and every day.
What an amazing way to wrap up this discussion. I love that, Molly. And we do need to find those opportunities to lift each other up. So thank you. And that's a wrap on this episode of Here to Be Heard podcast series. I want to again thank Dr. Molly McAllister, Dr. Marie Curl, and Dr. Aaliyah Harrison for joining me today and sharing their life experiences and how we can overcome some of the challenges we face as women. Our hashtag Here to Be Heard campaign is not just for Mars Associates, it's for women all over the world. So please visit beheard.mars.com to share your voice and vision for change. Mars will use this data to inform policies and procedures to help women reach their full potential. And follow hashtag Here to Be Heard on your social channels to stay up to date on the latest news and stories. Be sure to catch all of the previous episodes of the Here to Be Heard podcast series. Thanks for listening. And until then, remember, the world we want tomorrow starts with how we do business today.